Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Victory Lane Vibes. We are your hostesses with the mostesses. As you are aware, you hear my voice. It's Jared. We got Art. We got Danny. We got another special guest for y'all. I told y'all, off season don't mean off seasons for us. We always in the kitchen. We always cooking. Um, Guest, introduce yourself. Tell the world who we got on the mic tonight.
Yeah, what's up? I'm Quami Scott. I am a pro eNASCAR driver racing in the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series rookie season. So yeah, can't wait to get that started.
Absolute fire. Now I'm not gonna lie. We've all probably taken turns scrolling down your timeline for the past 2 years just to see how you got to where you are. But I'm sure you can put it into better words than we can. So, just start off like we do every interview. We got you into NASCAR. Who's your favorite driver growing up? What are you looking to accomplish starting your iRacing pro career?
Yeah. I guess we got to go back all the way to my wee young lad years in the back in the mid 2000s. Honestly, I've been a big gamer most of my life, and most of my hobbies, most of my passions really just revolve around some of the things I played. I liked racing as a child, but uh, one day I just found NASCAR. My dad used to buy just a bunch of games on the PS2 for me, and it exposed me to just a lot of different stuff. And yeah, I saw NASCAR '06, Total Team Control. That's what got me started. I played it, and I had no idea I didn't know NASCAR was. I didn't know what the sport was at the time. I didn't know anything about professional motorsports or anything like that. But I picked it up, and I just fell in love with it. And then I realized that this wasn't just a game. That this was a real thing that people do. And after that, um, here we are about 15 years more than over a couple of decades later, and I'm suddenly a pro NASCAR driver and whatnot, and yeah, uh, racing doing NASCAR virtually. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the NASCAR '06 because that was gonna be my first question for you because I was a PS2 kid as well, and I was gonna ask you like, what was the game for you growing up? And for me, it was '06 too. Like when I learned you could switch cars, that was
Yeah,
just like that intro,
the
like
intro
the intro
that's like
demo.
hands down like one of the best. Nothing tops that. Like
Like, yeah, kid me, like my mind was just blown. I was like, this is
mhm.
the future right here. Like gaming will never be the same after this.
Yeah, like it goes to the intro, and then like after the intro, you literally you start exactly from where the intro like leaves off with the car flipped.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
switch
yeah.
cars. It was cool. But yeah, no, that got me started. I had NASCAR '06, I had a '07. I didn't get '08, but then '09. '09, so I actually for '09 I got 360, and I played '09 and 360, and um yeah, NASCAR 9, I still have friends that I used to play with, way back in the day, that I still know to this day. Um, yeah, and my good buddy of mine, Terrell Baker, shout out to Terrell Baker, TCB. Um, but yeah, no, it's funny. I met him on NASCAR '09, and yeah, we went to Daytona last year together. Um, it's great, like just being around the sport, being in NASCAR has you know formed a lot of great relationships in my life. So it's it's pretty cool to have.
That's dope. Well, I guess we'll start rattling off some questions. So, for those our listeners who may not know what exactly is that you do, can you give us some insight as far as in iRacing how you get to the level of which that you're in?
Well, first of all, you gotta have a lot of time on your hands, or at least the time to be able to actually commit and just grind and put in the work. Yeah, so basically, I didn't take iRacing seriously until like after college, um, around 2021, like late 2021, and I didn't know too much about the NASCAR world and whatnot, but I was just doing a lot of races, doing a lot of official races on iRacing, um, and one day this team called Nexus Esports hit me up and was like, you're pretty good. You want to join our sim racing team? Um, and yeah, that's the team I'm still on to this day. And yeah, but basically, yeah. I mean, if anyone can get started today. Obviously it's gonna take a lot of work to you, you just got experience is the main thing. Um, just I know a lot of people on iRacing already have some sort of real racing background or of sorts. Me personally, I don't. I just been around. I just been playing some racing games for a long time. So when I made the transition to iRacing, it just it was pretty seamless for me. But anyone could get to the level of could get to a pro level with just the right amount of work and the right team.
So, out of idle curiosity, because I hear NASCAR '06 and then iRacing. What is the through line there? What is the sort of the transition to that? Out of idle curiosity, did it continue with the console racing games, and then you become interested in iRacing? Was it something you got back into? Tell me more about that, please.
Yeah, I started with console racing games. NAS I didn't have a wheel and pedals like I do now. Um, my rig isn't as crazy as most of the guys that I race with. I simply have my wheel, clamped to my desk and some pedals.
Yeah, well, if
Um,
you look at my
yeah,
thumbnail, you
yeah,
can see my Logitech
yeah,
just
yeah.
peeking up in the corner.
My wheel is right here. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just but yeah, no, I started on controller though. I started on controller. Um, was really big on NASCAR, and then through the 2010s, I kind of like shied away from NASCAR and started um taking. I don't know if you guys heard of Forza. I mean, probably you guys probably obviously have heard of Forza, right? But yeah, was really big on Forza um throughout the 2010s. I started on 3, and then I played all of them up until 7. Um, yeah, and I made it to the Forza RC Grand Finals in like 2017. Um, so like yeah, I've been around racing. I've been racing at a competitive level uh, for a while now. So I guess making that transition to racing, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, no, after a while, after racing, I was racing Forza, racing on Forza for a while, and I just wanted more. I wanted a more immersive. I wanted more out of racing, and iRacing at the time was, obviously, I didn't necessarily have the money to, you know, participate and to get a rig and to get a membership when I was younger. But during COVID, um, I finally decided that I was gonna, you know, buy a wheel, get a PC, and make that jump because I don't know, I just wanted more. And honestly, like the whole idea of getting back into NASCAR again was really appealing. So yeah, that was NASCAR is. I always call NASCAR like my roots. Like that's where racing started for me. So yeah, and yeah, I started out racing in 2020, and during COVID, like think I bought my membership literally that December.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so that's where we are now.
So I want to fast forward real quick. Can you tell the folks at home a little bit about the Texas race from a couple weeks ago? Because that was a pretty big achievement for you. First, give everyone sort of some background, set the stage for it, and then just walk us through what happened, your thoughts during, afterwards, all of that.
Yeah, that was. I don't know if you like watch any clips of my stream or whatnot, but that was the most stressful race of my life, like legit. Yeah, like, so going into it, the previous race before that, I got wrecked at Dover and finished like 32nd, and it left me. I was 22nd going into that race, and there's one NASCAR driver who retired this year, so they took 21 spots instead of the typical 20, and yeah, so I needed to. The goal was to finish inside the top 20, obviously, going into the race. So yeah, we had an off week. Typically, the Contender Series races are back to back, weekly, but we had a week off for Thanksgiving, and then it was the final race the following week. And yeah, I knew I needed to get finished, so I put in a lot of work with my team, practice. We made sure that we got our car set up, and dialed in. For a lot of people might not notice, but iRacing, like the way setups work and tuning your car, like that's a thing. Just like the real teams, we use real telemetry data and all that to get the car where it needs to be for the race. Because yeah, there's a whole bunch of different teams. Not everyone's on the same stuff. So yeah, we got dialed in. The queue setup was great. So on the day of, I qualified 4th that race, and that was my best qualifying of the entire year. That's exactly what I needed. Fell back a little bit on the start of that race to like 11th. I didn't get a good start. Yeah, I got swallowed up by the pack like immediately, and that's it's tough out there. Like those guys, those guys are actually some of top 60 best oval races on iRacing. So you got to fight for every position. You know, every single person you're racing against, they're not just gonna give it to you. You got to really work for it. But yeah, it was. I was battling around, the top 10, or like outside the top 10 that whole race, and I think I just squeaked in. By the end of it, I finished 14th. Started 4th, finished 14th. Not ideal, but it was just enough to get me. So we had a 3-way tie for 21st. Regardless, I still got in, luckily, because yeah, like I said, one driver retired, Michael Conti. So big thank you to Conti, I guess, for retiring this year, because I would have been the first one out if it wasn't for that.
That's dope. It was I was like we had mentioned, I was looking back and it seemed like from going to Road to Pro to Contender to now with you in the Coke Series, is it typically something that happens like so quickly? Like it seemed like you advanced like kind of fast. Is that the norm, or just because you had the finishes and the points and the skill, you were able to sort of, I guess, accelerate your progressions?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of all of that. Um, my biggest thing was that I did not want to spend a whole entire year, because it's the guys going to Road to Pro. I mean, the season starts in February, so you miss out this year. You guys spend a whole another year doing that same progress all over again, going through both rounds of Road to Pro, and then going, racing through Contender. And my big thing was I am not doing that again. I wanted to make sure I wanted to make Coke. I just really wanted to make Coke. And yeah, so I put in a lot of work to do that, and really fortunate that it paid off. I wouldn't have got there without my teammates. So Nexus Esports, everyone on that team, those guys believed in me from day one, and a lot of guys on that team played a big part in getting me to where I am. Oh yeah, one thing I want to mention. You said, because you mentioned about do people typically get there so soon. I mean, I've seen. I don't know, me. I guess I was just really fortunate. Like I had a lot of, like I said, I had a lot of sim racing experience before. Just before iRacing and all that. But it's it's cool. There's guys that have been racing on iRacing that participate in the pros for years, and yeah, to get there in such a short amount of time, yeah, I'm just really blessed and fortunate that it happened so quick for me. I knew going into it that I was gonna have to put in a lot of time to match those guys because they've spent years on it, and a lot of some of those guys have been trying to get into the pros as well for years. So honestly, just to be remotely, just to actually be on that level in such a short time for me, it's crazy. It's a great feeling. I didn't make it last year. I didn't make it out of round one, but this year I made it all the way to Coke. So yeah, it's great.
And you'll have to pardon my mild ignorance a bit here.
No, go ahead.
I understand, like the sports car side, the endurance racing side of iRacing very well, but NASCAR still feels just a touch foreign to me, if I'm being perfectly honest. But certainly, at least certainly from an outsider looking in, your move to the Coke series, it felt almost meteoric. Is that normal, or are you just that good? I would love to believe it's the latter, but again, I don't understand the broader architecture of this. So, talk me through that.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's I have a lot of work to do. Honestly, I feel like me as a driver, I'm a pro now. Yeah, but um, there's a bunch of guys I can name off that are in the pros right now that I think I still have a little bit of work to do in order to catch up and get to their level. They have I'm going into the series as a rookie, so it's one thing to have the speed and the talent, but it's a whole another thing to actually have the racecraft and be able to race side by side with those guys and not crash. Um, it's a pretty big deal. You don't have to be the fastest car on the track all the time to get a good finish. So yeah, it's definitely. I don't think I've reached my peak yet as a driver. There's a lot of things I need to work on. Um, but yeah, and it's a long road to get there. It's you go through round one of the trucks, top 70 from round one of the trucks, make it into round two, and then the 70 that advance from round one into round two, um, the 20 from that group advances through the contender, and then for the Coke series, or for the way the contender series lineup is made up, the bottom half of the Coke guys, so the bottom 20, get relegated down to contender, and then they race the top 20 that just advanced from round two in the Xfinity car.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then the top 20 from that, they they move on. They either return or make it into Coke.
Interesting. All righty. But and you talk about sort of, certainly what you feel like you need to, you say, you feel like some things, you need to sharpen up. Certainly, you've made it to pro, and like you said, clearly to some extent, certainly to some extent, say that 5 times fast. Clearly, I cannot. Um, you've got some of the things, but how do you reconcile that?
What do you mean by?
Just you're being, like I said, clearly you're good, you're in pro,
Yeah.
but certainly how do you sharpen that in the
Oh,
context,
yeah.
that talent in the context of racing? How do you get better at that? You move up the field, etc.
Being aggressive,
That's
being
fair enough.
ultra aggressive, like it, it's rough. It's rough out there. You gotta be willing to go door to door and occasionally use a bumper. Honestly, I personally don't like racing like that all the time. I'm gonna try to get through 2024 as cleanly as possible without making too many enemies and whatnot. I have a lot of respect for the code guys, and a lot of them already have a lot of respect for me. They know I am going into it, and as well, I'm also kind of lucky. Yeah, I raced with some. I've been racing with the pros for a while, even before I was in the pros, just through the public races, because a lot of them participate in those. So they already know who I am, and they have respect for me. So that's good. But in order for me to, like I said, in that Texas race, I went from 4th to 14th. Luckily, I still made it in, but that can't happen in the Coca-Cola series. It'd probably be a lot worse. The minute you make a mistake, these guys are ready to pounce, and they will take any opening that they see. If there's a gap, they're gonna take it. So yeah, a lot of it is just me, racing, being a little bit more aggressive. I was very, I guess, you know, I was trying to keep my nose clean throughout contender. You know, um, I wasn't nearly as aggressive as I should have been, but next year in Coke, I'll have a little bit more time and just there's 18 races in the season, so I could definitely work on that and yeah, trying to be as much of a pushover really. Not that I was, but something to work on.
So you mentioned during the Texas race that you felt like that was the most stressed you ever felt during a race, right?
Yeah,
So
no doubt.
out of curiosity, like, how do you handle that type of pressure or that stress during races, especially when it's not going well? And you might go in with a game plan for a race and it's just not working. Like, how do you manage that?
It's just staying composed, just keeping your head in the game. You just gotta find a way. You just gotta stay focused and just find a way to keep your head in the game. And that's the big difference. Is okay. How do you make a race go from bad to okay? Or how do you make a bad race go from kind of being okay to instead of going from bad to worse? And that's a pretty big part, and just being confident, really being confident in yourself. I think racing in general, at least from what I've seen on iRacing, is a really big uh, comparisons you can make with a driver's confidence and
Mhm.
just how good they are on track. You'll find that the most confident drivers are people who really not like, you know, not even like, I'm not even I don't mean like ego, but if you're confident in yourself, that's already like a huge part of it. Because when you're racing, your confidence literally shows. At least for me, in all my years of racing, you can see that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about confidence because I feel like so I'm in the same boat as Danny where it's like this is still pretty new for me. Like I'm still like NASCAR heat level. That's
Yeah,
my, which I'm sure is training wheels for you guys. Um, but I've seen some streams of different drivers, and you can tell the ones that they feel like they can go and get it versus
yeah,
the ones that are just trying to just make it through and like avoid the chaos. And it just seems like it's a very different mentality, which is kind of validated by what you're saying about you have to be aggressive at this level, like to be successful. Like you can't hide in the shadows and like backdoor your way to a good finish. Like you have to go out there and actually take it.
yeah. I mean, hey, I finished 21st, so maybe that's exactly what I did, but it worked for me somehow, fortunately. But yeah, like I said, the plan is to just be more aggressive. I don't know if you guys have watched any of the highlights from last season, but if you just watch one race, um, you'll see exactly how aggressive I'm talking about.
Mhm.
It's rough. It's pretty rough, but I'm ready for it. I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
You have to put on your 2014 Brad Keselowski hat and just bulldoze through the field if you have to.
Yeah. There are that's one way to do it. I only go there if I'm pushed to that limit, but we'll see how the season goes. So
Yeah.
With your success that you've had in iRacing, if you had an opportunity to jump in a car in real life and get on the track, is that something you think that you're shooting for, or you just sort of just playing the game, waiting to see, getting better where you are, and then seeing what happens?
yeah, that is a goal, honestly. I don't whether I can't I don't have a exact, timeline, or I don't know exactly if this is something that's really possible. I mean, I know it's possible. I've seen, you got guys like Raja out there who's done just that. So, as I know it's definitely something that can be done. It kind of thinking about it, it kind of just feels like a pipe dream. Like, oh, like, I'm just some kid in his room who, I have a wheel and pedals, but I never actually. Yeah, I've done go karting and stuff like that here and there, but to actually race and a stock car, you know, I don't really think. I mean, I think iRacing prepares me a little bit in terms of like the racecraft. Like, I have knowledge of these tracks and like kind of a basic idea of what to do, but like to actually be in a race car is a whole nother experience. But if if that opportunity comes across itself one day, I definitely wouldn't hesitate just to at least. I mean, even if it doesn't work out, obviously I'm still gonna be sim racing. I just want to be around the sport in general. Um, but yeah, that would be the most ideal outcome for me is to try to hop in a real race car and see what I could do.
Are there any tracks that you feel really suit your driving style, or are there any tracks that you feel like you absolutely hate them when you have to go
Oh,
there?
there are definitely tracks that I hate. Um, I feel like the more any track that you have to break at, I feel like I'm really good at mile and a halves. I
Mm.
feel like at least in contender, the mile and a half seemed to had those were my best races. Um, Las Vegas, Homestead, um, yeah, Homestead. I was those have all been really good tracks for me. Dover is my home track. I mean, it's not a mile and a half, but Dover is my home track. Um, Tracks that I hate. It's a track that I hate. Uh, it's funny. I mean, I try to be good most places that I go to. Even if I'm not like top speed, not like winning pace. I try to be at least decent. Um, Track that I hate. Uh, I'm not the biggest. I like watching plate races, but I hate racing in them. It's just chaos everywhere,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine doing that in real life, man. Those guys, it's it's one thing to do on iRacing. Everyone just throwing these crazy moves everywhere, just because they can. But in real life, I mean, we've seen what happens, just this season. You know, um, there's a actual danger involved. You can't just do what you're doing on iRacing and try to, uh, you know, do that at Daytona or Talladega in real life. So yeah, I have love and hate relationship with super speedway racing.
Yeah, I feel like no one's neutral on plate races, right? They either love them and they think they're the best, or they hate
Yeah,
them and then they just disappear from the schedule. But there's no middle ground.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, that's the thing, right? I like it. I like races that are actually in the hands of the driver most of the time. Daytona, Talladega, it's not always in the hands of the driver. It's just did you dodge the wreck or not? You know. But at the same time, I can appreciate. I understand that that's also what kind of makes it fun is the lottery and just the randomality of it. You know. Yeah. Watching Trevor Bayne win at Daytona in 2011. Obviously that was you know it was cool to see. No one would ever thought that that was gonna he was gonna be the winner of that race, but it was it's cool. It was just really really cool to see that.
Absolutely. I know you gave a shout out to your Nexus teammates. Did anybody on your team, were they already in Coke, or were y'all working together to get the Coke? Are all of you in Coke?
I don't know. It's well, I mean, that's the goal one day, right? We get everyone that's part, competing, we get everybody in. Um, so in terms of, so it's just I have one other teammate in Coke right now who we actually picked up at the start of the contender season. He was a free agent, I guess. Dylan Alt. Yeah, he was previously on. He's been in Coke for a couple years now. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be cool now that he's on our team on Nexus. Uh, it's gonna be really cool to just be able to learn from him. In terms of aggression, he definitely has that down pat. So there's a lot of things I'm gonna be learning from him, and yeah, getting through the Coke series, I'm definitely gonna even getting through contender. Yeah, he's been a pretty big part in our success.
Shout out Dylan.
Yep.
Yeah, so to build on that, piggyback off that just a little bit. So sort of explain, I guess, the kind of the team dynamic in regards to esport. I mean, of course, you watch in NASCAR, the sort of the opposite sides of of the garage, but generally speaking, at least from a pure optics perspective, to us being more forward facing, public facing, it's mostly buddy buddy unless it's the drama fest that is Xfinity these days.
Yeah.
But how does that work in the context of NASCAR? Is there setup sharing, communication, um, that that sort of thing?
Yeah, all of the above, really. So it's interesting. So the Coke team. So there's teams that are at least for the at the pro level. The teams that are in Coke are a little bit different than the teams that drivers race on getting there. Um, so like I said, I'm on Nexus Esports, but I won't be racing on for Nexus Esports in the Pro Series. Like they might like I'm still they're my sim racing team, but the eNASCAR teams are completely different from that. So I'll I could possibly be on. So I'll be on Nexus Esports still. At the Coke level. I guess the Nexus it would be that's like my factory team. I'm part of the Nexus factory as what we like to call it. Um, but in the Coke series, we got real NASCAR teams racing in the Coke series. We got Stuart Haas, 23XI, um, Front Row, Junior Motorsports. Um, so I'll still be on Nexus, but I'll be on one of those teams.
Interesting. See, that's why I'm glad I asked, because I had assumed that you would be moving forward with Nexus.
Yeah.
Shows you
Yeah,
where
which like
bright
I
I
said,
am.
I'm still on Nexus.
Yeah,
Like I'm
but
still a Nexus driver, but
yes, but it's a little bit more
separate.
complicated than
Yeah,
that. I guess is kind of my broader point.
Yeah. It's
James tried to talk him out of his ride.
Do you know as of yet who you're going to be driving for? Have you been informed?
Not yet. Yeah, we don't. Free agency hasn't started yet. Free agency is probably starting next year in January. somewhere around then. We aren't able to disclose any of that until we actually till they tell us. But
Okay.
yeah, free agency hasn't started yet. So and yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a couple options out there. Junior motorsports on and eNASCAR. Oh, also that's a pretty big thing to mention. So there's two drivers per team in
Okay.
eNASCAR. So there's 20 teams. And most of them there's a lot of like real teams, and then some of them are like actually like not real NASCAR teams. They're just like esports teams and whatnot. That race in it. But yeah, like I said, junior motorsports actually has both of their seats are open. So that could definitely be something that I look into. I mean, it would be just the whole idea of that, like racing for Dale Jr. Right? You know, really don't know. You know, that'd be it's going to be really interesting to navigate that process.
Is he one of those drivers that you looked up to, like when you were a kid getting into racing, or was there anybody else that you saw that you were like, that's my guy, that I have my allegiance to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like as a kid, the first team you venture to is Hendrick Motorsports. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy and all those guys. Dale Jr. So yeah, I mean, I would say first when I first got into the sport, yeah, I was a big Gordon fan. Jeff Gordon was my guy. And then eventually I was like, all right, I don't want to bandwagon. I want to actually choose a driver. And yeah, I was a big Roush fan. And Greg Biffle was actually my guy. I actually ran a throwback paint and Contender because we went to Darlington this year, and usually for Darlington, a lot of the iRacers like to do throwback paints, and I ran his 2001 Granger paint in the Xfinity series, right? As it was then the Busch series, so that was cool.
And are there like any drivers that you've interacted with like during iRacing? Like you mentioned, Raj is like a guy that's starting iRacing, has made it the top level in terms of out in the world racing. But are there any other drivers that you've interacted with, before, during, after races that you're like, oh wow, I really was chatting with so and so. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's even IndyCar drivers. There's a bunch of guys that I've raced with. I've raced with Shane Van Gisbergen. That was interesting. We didn't exactly have the cleanest race, but I raced with Shane Van Gisbergen. Shane is one who had now has a full-time Xfinity ride, which is really awesome. Really, yeah, I think that's exactly what we need in the sport. More international drivers coming in. But yeah, I raced with Shane Van Gisbergen. I raced with Scott McLaughlin. A lot of these guys do NASCAR occasionally on iRacing. I raced William Byron actually. I didn't get to talk to him. And I was actually racing Dale Jr. the other day. He is a really big proponent of the 87s on NASCAR. So most of the time you see Dale Jr. iRacing. He's probably one of the more prominent drivers. Well, retired, but he's one of the more prominent NASCAR drivers that race on iRacing. Yeah, I was racing with him the other day. Yeah, Elliott Sadler, tons of guys. I mean, I might not have been able to really talk to them, but just to have the platform that to race against these guys, and it might not be real life, but virtually is like just super awesome.
I think that just calls back to like your skill level, because again, I'm probably just as ignorant to iRacing as I'd like to admit, but you clearly have to be a certain level to be in the same lobby as true professional IRL like drivers. So that's another testament to you and where you are in your early career. Just because if you're good enough to be racing against, Elliott Sadler and Scott McLaughlin and Junior, you clearly you're going places. So that's just another kudos to you, because I can't plug in my computer and do that. So
Yeah,
I
hey,
live
I mean,
vicariously through you.
that's the thing. I mean, you say that, but I truly believe that if you really put your mind to it, I think anyone can. Obviously, yeah, like some people have a better time at it than others, but I do think with the time, you never know. You give it a shot. Also it depends on I because the way the lobbies work, it just depends on your I rating, and that's how they group you. My I rating is like you know higher because I'm in the pros now and stuff like that. So naturally over time, my I rating went up. But no, I mean, you could randomly. Oh yeah, I was in the race with Nick Sanchez the other day as well too. Um, you know, it depends on where the I rating is. You might even as a lower I rating. Um, some of these guys don't hop on the sim as often, so you could be in a random like third split race and still bump into a random driver. You never know, and yeah, have the opportunity to race with them. So, and iRacing is really. I appreciate iRacing for that. It's really cool.
Yeah, to piggyback off that a little bit, again, going back to the sports car side, we ended up in a lobby with good old Supermax. We ended up in a lobby with Verstappen, and it was
Yeah.
kind of spooky, actually. Because
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
doesn't log on very much, and that has been well reported. He kind of has a habit of killing folks.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I've actually raced with Verstappen.
yeah, I'd be shocked if he does anything NASCAR related.
He does do NASCAR actually.
Oh, does
He
he?
does.
Okay.
I wouldn't be last year. So Talladega week. There's like a Talladega week that we do in the off season on iRacing, and he actually showed up for that. Um, I'm not sure how he did in that, but yeah, occasionally you'll see him just pop out to a random. Like I said, he's actually on a sim racing team, and he races in iRacing pretty frequently. So most of the time he is racing, he's doing something like IMSA related on iRacing. But yeah, no, people he dives into whatever he wants at times, but I haven't ran into him yet, unfortunately.
That may or may not be a good thing.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. At least it's content for me to post on, on my
True,
socials
true.
if I do run into him or he runs into me, right?
So you had mentioned, that someone looking to get into iRacing, it is obtainable, right? It's a realistic dream that someone can obtain and get to. What advice would you give to, if there's a 15-year-old listening to this right now who's thinking about getting into it, wants to get to the level like you're at, like what would you give it to them? What advice would you give to them if they're trying to get into iRacing, trying to pursue a career in sim racing?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, definitely don't, well, save up some money. Save up money, get a PC, get some hardware, but don't go overboard. I don't have, I only race off of this screen right here that you see in front of me. Most of the guys I race with have full on sim rigs, with 3 monitors or like an ultra wide or something like that. I don't have any of that. This was originally my this was a desk that I bought as a workstation really for my music actually, which is a whole different story. But yeah, this is just a desk that I bought, I just in general for me to have, and I just ended up sim racing from it. And I have a Thrustmaster TMX Pro, the entry level wheel I bought for about 120 bucks at the time. Force feedback, pedals came with it. I think overall, my PC setup, you know, like I've over time I've upgraded my PC, but you don't need a lot to get started. You can get started for fairly cheap. And yeah, when you finally do get on iRacing, and you're working your way up and trying to get your license up, just race clean. Try to take it seriously. Like, don't just go on there, and obviously the goal is you want to win, but it goes a long way just racing people clean. People are gonna remember that, and you'll develop a reputation. Reputations mean a lot, even on iRacing in a virtual world. If you're a Ross Chastain, or just an aggressive driver, um, people they're gonna label you as such, and you're gonna get raced by people that you probably never even raced before, that know about you and how you race, and yeah, we'll race you hard and aggressively. So yeah, I mean, first thing, yeah, just focus on being a clean driver, and eventually work on your pace, and at the same time, don't be also, like, don't be afraid to to race. Like I said, be confident. Be confident. Um, race respectfully, and race hard. Race hard, but respectively.
Yeah, that's pretty impactful. For sure. That's that's a really good way to wrap that up. That's crazy.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, was really looking forward to interviewing you. Like I said, we've been following you for a little bit, watching your rise to success. So, super proud to see you make it in the Coke Series. Definitely keep us posted for who you sign with. I know that'll be a big deal. We're gonna shout you out and spread some love and do all that stuff. On our end to help push you to success as much as we can. Yeah,
Yep.
Danny, all right. What else you got for young Kwame?
I don't know. I think I'm good. Get me
Anything
some
at all?
NASCAR heat. You give me some NASCAR heat tips, or whatever the next console game comes out. You need to help me out, because I don't see I don't see myself having a PC in my future. So the
Right.
PS5 is going to be my area.
Yeah, no. Well, okay. So good news is that they're actually, I don't. So NASCAR Heat, actually, I only played the first NASCAR Heat, and
It's the best one, arguably the best one.
yeah, it was great. It was great. But yeah, I didn't really pick it up that much. I didn't get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But uh, good news is that there is actually iRacing is developing their own console game pretty soon.
Yep.
And it's going to be like, pretty focused on being sim and not like arcadey and whatnot. Bad news is that it's not coming out until 2025, so you're gonna have to, unfortunately, race on NASCAR Heat for a little while.
You know what's crazy? You gonna have to decide whether you want to iRace or play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, which is
Oh my.
that's gonna be a tough decision,
That's crazy.
honestly.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Whew.
2025 is just that year, I guess, that everything is popping
Already,
off.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be broke, but that's fine.
unfortunately, it'll be worth it, hopefully.
Well, good stuff, man. So once again, you can follow Kwame at Young Kwame on Twitter. He's on Twitch, twitch.tv/YoungKwame. Shout out to Nexus Esports, his factory team.
Yeah.
And we're gonna sit tight and see where he lands to begin his Coke Series iRacing career here in a few weeks. So we appreciate you taking the time having you on. Appreciate y'all for listening, and we'll catch y'all next time.
See ya.
Until next time.
Peace.